Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from Solar Games, and today we're going to talk about a really fun experience I had over the weekend. So, this past weekend, I went over to my friend Sean's house, and with a couple other friends, we were there to basically play some Magic. So, it's really interesting. Normally, we would get together, and especially if we have 4 players, it's an easy, like, Commander, Knight type of thing. If we have more than that, maybe 8 players, we're usually doing drafting in some other form of Magic like that. But this week, I think we're just having some conversations about old products and things that were kind of interesting from back in the old school days. And Sean actually shared with us like something called the Guild Kit. I think I've heard of these, but I really, I wasn't around when these were released, so it wasn't really something that I looked into or purchased back then. And what a great experience that I missed out. But again, I kind of made it up over the weekend. So let me tell you about this wonderful product that Wizard made back in 2018 that I think honestly, even today at the price it is, it may be a very worth it, thing to do. So back in 2018, Ravnica was the biggest kind of topic, right? This is before War of the Spark, before the end of the story. We were doing Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Legions. And this is a little bit past Ixalan, of course, coming back to Ravnica. Everyone's loving it because you got Shocklands and, these things that people like. And Ravnica is just very iconic for having great stories, having great lore, having great, identity. So if you know about color identity within Magic, I think Ravnica defines the 2-color identity very well, right? Whether it be enemy colors or ally colors. The 10 guilds of Ravnica are essentially what it's so iconic, players refer to them all the time. Like if you build colors, for example, if you build a blue red deck, we call it Is It. So that's one of the guilds. So Is It is the guild that's all about creation, invention type of things. And so, of course, they're inventing magic. Their stuff is unstable. It's kind of interesting, right? And if you, for example, are playing black-green, it's Golgari. So, and Golgari has their kind of like the undead, undergrowth type of thing. So all of the guilds have a very strong, iconic representation. And it's just, if you ask any Magic player that has been playing for, I would say even a year, they would know these guilds and they would know very well. Meaning, if you ask them, does a Boros guild do? They would 100% know, like, boom, this is what they do. Not both the lore, like what they are in the story, but also like how they play and show up in the cards. And that's really, really cool is that for, one of the few kind of sets or planes where that connectivity between the lore and the story is so strong to the cards, right? And so as part of the third revisitation to the plane of Ravnica, Wizards decided to build a product called the Guild Kits. So it's basically 10 decks, 10 60-card constructed decks representing each of the guild. Now, the cards are not just from guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Legions, but it's actually from all across all of Ravnica, kind of going back to the first set of Ravnica all the way through to the last. And that's really interesting too. So, even though Dex isn't technically legal in every format, whatever, there might be cards that are legal in Eternal formats, but not legal back even in 2018 standard. And that's okay, because what they actually built was honestly a labor of love. So let's first talk about what it is, right? So again, there are 10 kits. They sold them separately. There was one released of 5 decks released with Ravnica, Guilds of Ravnica. Then 5 more were released later with Ravnica Allegiance. And again, that's just the 5 for the ally color, 5 for the enemy colors. Okay? And together, it's 10 decks. Now, these decks are really, really unique for a couple reasons. One, they were honestly pretty powerful. They had great reprints. They had cards that are very iconic for each of the guild. They had cards that are just very, very strong for all sorts of formats. Back then, in Standard, definitely, standard playable cards, Commander playable staples, Commander playable cards, etc. And it really represents the color well. But the product that you purchased back then wasn't just the decks. It actually had a dice that was, from each one of the guilds, and it had iconic colors, had iconic guild symbols. It's really truly a collectible piece. In addition to the dice, you had a coin that, a badge that basically you can pin it if you want to on your shirt or something, but it had the symbol of the guild, and it's really nicely done. None of this like poor quality, like for example, if you remember Kaldheim Dice, there were a lot of issues with how they kind of painted it, but these badges are just really beautiful looking. The colors are vibrant, great looking things, right? In addition to this, because we're not done yet, they give you a deck box. Now, like deck boxes from Wizards tend to be kind of like not so great because, you know, it's just a piece of paper, especially with commander deck boxes they give nowadays. It doesn't even fit a 100 card commander deck if you double sleeve it. So it really just felt like it was missing a lot. This deck box is amazing. So a couple things with it. Number one, if you sleeve in Dragon Shield, so thicker sleeves, but just one sleeve, you can put the 60 card deck perfectly into the deck box. You don't have to like squeeze it in, jam it in. It just fits really nicely. Second of all, the deck box has the symbol of the guild on top of them and the colors. So you can recognize it from the side, from the top, which guild it is, kind of just lay it out. The third and really interesting part is, for some reason, these 10 deck boxes, if you put them all together, they fit into a BCW, those like long boxes. I don't have one here on hand, but I wish I could show you. I see one over there, but I'm not gonna go reach for it. The BCW long boxes, it fits 10 of them perfectly. Don't ask me why, don't ask me how, but if you put the 10 deck box, I mean, it's almost like it's like a board game, right? You could bring this BCW long box out, open it up, 10 deck boxes, perfectly arranged. You can fit all the tokens inside the deck box as well as the sleeved cards. It's just like crazy good, right? And if it was just that, it's perfect, but the price was well priced too. So in the current market, it's, I think maybe around like $48 each deck or something like that. If you buy them individually, maybe a little higher than that. But like, I think the 5 decks cost somewhere between like $270, $240, that $50 deck range type of thing. If you buy the set, you might be able to find other deals, of course. And, back then, though, at release, MSRP was $19.99, so $20 for each deck. So for $200, you could have the whole set, whole collection of them, right? Well priced, good reprints. I mean, the value of the cards inside the decks, even back then, were worth their box. So, yeah. But the key is this. There's something that I realized when I started playing this, is that, again, remember we were talking about guild identity, talking about guild representation, the iconic symbolism and ideas and how a guild will play. That's all part of the decks, how the constructed decks also played on the tabletop too. It is so flavorful. I mean, if you like the collectability, I already laid it out for why you should collect this thing. But if you like to play Magic, you like the whole politicking, I mean, I think these decks were meant to be played 1 versus 1 maybe, but I actually found playing them free-for-all, more commander styled, was amazing. I mean, we had a great time playing the 4 guilds. We just kind of chose at random. And not only did the games get really, really, really balanced, was fairly balanced all the way through, it was also really well kind of like politicking as well, right? And that's the whole idea, is that when you play free-for-all, you have to politic with other people, make sure nobody loses, but also make sure nobody wins. Sean had a great recommendation that we all start with 30 life, and it was just good. It felt like a lot more balanced this way, not 20. I felt 20 probably would have been too fast. But I mean, so like, I'll just give my experience. I played Dimir, and just randomly I'm wearing like Dimir colors. Okay. But anyways, I played Dimir, and I was like, oh, okay. So, my creatures are not that strong, but I kind of relied on the other people. And I find because of Dimir, you have access to creatures, legendary creatures like Lazov, who's basically like any card that goes into a graveyard. Well, having 4 players, I had a lot more choices. And just also so happened that like the other players was Orzhov and Kogari, which both had, commonality with me in black. So I had a lot of access to their cards and the ability to do fun things. As an example, most of the game, my Lazov was actually just, copying an extort creature. So I was extorting the whole time as if I was Orzhov. These kind of things are just so fun, right? When we put it all together and play that with the team. But, my one of my friends was also playing Azorius. So, and it's kind of funny, like we all kind of tended towards maybe the colors that we like. So like my friend who plays Azorius is kind of like, okay, he just kind of holds back a little bit, but then, in the crucial moment, he'll make a judgment and make a big decision on like, okay, well, this spell's countered or, whatever. So it's kind of interesting how a lot of those things balance. But man, can I just say, it is so flavorful. If you have not tried these decks, you got to go out there and try them. I know, the price is high now. But man, if you can find these decks for like a decent price, I think anything sub like, I would rate this experience as good as a commander deck, right? And usually I'm coming on the channel, I'm like, okay, financially, this is a good idea or not. I'm not even considering that because I'll tell you this right now. This thing is just worth it. And I would recommend if you're going to be kind of serious about this whole thing and really want to have the good experience, maybe, buy all of the decks or just at least buy the one you like, but work with your friends, meaning like you all buy the decks you like and please play with each other, these decks. Do not modify them. Keep them as is. Don't overpower them, whatever. Just keep them as is so it's a fairly balanced game and play with your friends. It's really a great experience. And here's the thing. Towards the end of the night, we started talking about, the experience and how great it was. And it dawned on me that, like, this is a product made by Wizards. They have the creativity. They have the capability. I don't understand what happened. Because if you think about it, this is built by the same company. Now, maybe in the last 4 years, 5 years, lots of churn, lots of people left the company, they started doing their own thing. Totally possible. But just for me personally, I was astounded, shocked by how good this product was and how fairly priced it was at release. And it's just amazing that, when you put the effort into it, when you really think about it, this core identity of Magic, this core IP of Magic is actually very valuable and very unique, very interesting. And there's so much more we could do with it. I just hope that Wizards sooner rather than later realize this and start thinking about ways where they can tap into this more and really think about like building a good product rather than building something that is meant to trick or earn more money. And I stress this more and more. I know there's, I'm definitely an Apple fanboy, right? At this point, if you haven't realized it, yeah. But I truly believe, at least, the way that I see with Apple products, like trying to just build a better product that's easy to use, that's smooth experience overall, and worry about that part of it. And then the rest of it will come. The customers will come, and you could charge a higher price. It's not a problem. I know Apple's really well known for their advertising, but I got to tell you, man, like their products work and their products are really, really good. At least from my experience, I just haven't had a bad experience with iPhone. And I've the one time I switched over to an Android HTC M8 back in the day, that was the phone that was pretty good. I thought it was kind of novel, but from the perspective of where I was coming from, the phone just became kind of like useless after about a year or two. Like it got really slow. These other things started cropping up that really shouldn't be cropping up for like a flagship phone. Anyways, this is a Magic channel. This video is not about cell phones, but I think back to the point is I really think designing a good product at the core that's fun to play, that's valuable, that's truly flavorful and has a lot of like meaning, that draws people in. And here's the thing, like I'm probably going to start looking the market and try to buy one of these decks because to me, that thing is so fun, so powerful. And I just want to share that with you. A lot of you guys probably don't even know about the guild kits, but Ravnica guild kits, I guess my recommendation. It's a great product, great for collectors, great for players. I think the only thing that's really problematic now is the price right now is pretty high because again, these things weren't really highly printed. This is not, printers go burr 2022. This is back in 2018 where Wizards was a lot more conservative about their print runs. So unfortunately, that does mean that this great product just is less, common on the market and you might have to pay a pretty hefty premium to be able to enjoy the experience. But even then, in my personal opinion, I think this is worth a commander deck. So if you're paying like $40 or so for a commander deck, I think this is worth it too. So anyways, Mark Solar Games. I want to share something that's really fun and interesting with you, and I hope you enjoy it. See you later. Bye.